Happy Talkers Parent Boot Camp, Lesson Pack 2, Building Social Skills. Social skills start with taking turns in conversation. So we have to back up to turn taking in order to get your child ready to socially interact with peers and others. So let's talk about turn taking. Turn taking is truly the basis of communication. And when kiddos can't tune into communication or respond, they miss a lot of important skills, such as imitating others and sharing emotions, and so it also interferes with learning during a very sensitive time of their brain development. So we have brain cells that are ready to process social and language information, and we want to get our kiddos up to speed to be able to take turns with each other and with us. And how we work on turn taking is through joint activities. And we've talked about joint activities already, but we're going to talk about them in a little bit of a different way. Joint activities are truly like a conversation, but it's involving sets of turns between you and your child that's based on one activity that you're doing together. The type of activities that we our joint activities always involve objects or toys or activity or different actions. There's a specific structure to play with your child that we are going to teach you that's really rich in learning opportunities. So they've through ESDM they've determined that the joint activities should last only 2 to 5 minutes, really short, and that they have a four-part structure that if we follow them, we'll have the optimal opportunity for social communication and turn-taking. And so this really builds your child's turn-taking skills. The four-part structure is setup, which is what hooks the child's interest and what begins the activity. The theme itself, what's going to be played or done and how. A variation, which is an important part of changing the play up a little bit to teach your child different ways to do things. And then there's the closing, where we finish the game or we close and clean up and transition to something else. So, how do you practice? First, you hook your child's interest, and you can use your child's toys that they are playing with or that they're enjoying. You can do these during like a daily activity as well. But the most important part is that you're face to face with your child, and it can start by the child imitating you, and showing that they want to continue by gesturing, or they can do something and you imitate them, but it has to start with one of you, and then the other person imitates that person or shows an interest in imitating, and that's kind of how the joint activity begins. So then you take turns, and then you generally will have to make a variation happen because your child won't know how to do that yet. So, whatever activity you are taking turns doing, you change it up just a little bit and then have your child imitate the variation. And then it starts again. So, if it's important to end the activity to keep them motivated. It's important to end it before they get bored or before they walk away, so that you can more easily clean up the activity and close it out, and really kind of put all four pieces into the place. So, how to set the theme? It's basically think about something you and your child can take turns doing. And if the child sets a theme, then you just take a turn doing the same thing they're doing, and then eventually add a variation with materials when it's your turn. Or if you set the theme, you show them what to do and give them help, and the information to help them do the activity. So if you've done something that they want to do but they can't do, so maybe hammering the ball into the ball tower, but they don't know how to do that, but they reach for the hammer, you can give them the hammer and do hand over hand, boom, 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 so it goes down into the ball tower. And then in closing the activity, you basically are asking them, you can ask them, are you all done? And get the container so we can clean up. Um, if the child signals they're done in some other way, get the container. So get the container quickly so that the cleanup can happen while they're still involved in the activity itself. If the child gets too repetitive, then offer something new to them and hide the old one. So if the same thing they keep doing with the same car over and over again, give them a new car so that they can do something different. Oftentimes the kiddos get really hyper focused on one object, so you need to kind of take it out of the environment, and then keep showing them different things to get their attention onto something new and exciting. This is another way to also increase their focus time. So if they're hyper focused on something and you really want to move them away, you may have to replace that object with something else close to it, so that they will pay attention a little bit longer. And then the other thing you can do also is after the cleanup is done, you can move on to a sensory social routine after an object focused one. Um, you want to always try to go back and forth if you have the time. So after they've focused on something and done it, like stringing beads, possibly that's a little bit harder, um, or something that is requires more focus and attention, then move on to something more fun that's sensory social that moves their body so that they stay engaged with you with turn taking, even if it's not with an object. So you can practice your joint activity during daily routines as well, by creating little routines throughout the day that are around meals, around dressing, around bedtime or bath time. And all of these routines are opportunities for you to teach your child something. So if you put your ESDM goggles on and look at, maybe clean up after dinner as an ESDM possibility for interaction, you can do something like have your child bring me all the plates and put the plates in the sink, and then this might be something where they're working on following directions, or you know let's take all the forks and put them all in the dishwasher. So the routine itself is, you take 3 forks and you put it in the dishwasher, and your child takes 3 plates and they put that in the dishwasher, and so just putting things in the dishwasher, and then the variation would be, I'm going to put the soap in the dishwasher. Do you want to put some soap in the dishwasher? And you let them squeeze a little soap in the dishwasher. So that's a routine, and you could do that every single night, and you can add words to that, like I want 5 dishes, I want 2 dishes, I want 3 forks, and just have work on them listening carefully and following through. So this provides a lot of learning opportunities for your kiddo, but it also takes more time. So make sure that if you're going to take on the joint activities during daily routines, that you set aside enough time to get them ready. So if it's a dressing routine in the morning that your kiddo has a hard time getting dressed, you could use a visual where it says, okay, pick a shirt, pick your pants, pick socks, and then they go through and they pick. If they have too hard of a time for picking, give them an option of 2 or 3 shirts to wear, um, so that it speeds things up. But the more choices you can offer, clothes choices, where it's not like you can pick any shirt, that'll take forever. But thinking about how can I give them some choices so it's more fun for them, but still keep things moving along. You could also do a timer. So you have 5 seconds to pick a shirt, you have 10 seconds to pick out pants. Those types of things that you can build into their day make it more fun, but also provide learning opportunities. So this really does, when you're using them during daily routines, then you can ensure that all parts of the activities are taught to them, and then it makes it really predictable. So Washing hands is another great one to do because it's always the same steps. You can just pick a song that you sing when you're washing hands, or how you get the soap, that type of thing. So this allows you to provide intervention all day long. And there's a lot of opportunities for it. And there's on page 133 and 134, there's a lot of examples that you can use. We are going to dive into the other part of social interaction and social skills, aside from turn taking, and that is nonverbal communication. And nonverbal communication is basically teaching them about this is teaching them how to read others' body language, and also teaching them how to use their body and their facial expressions to express different feelings or thoughts that they have. So what's great about it is kiddos that are on the spectrum are generally very visual learners. So once they have these skills down where they can recognize how people's facial expressions and what they mean, it really helps them understand themselves and others more easily. So we're going to teach them how to use their facial expression, their hand gestures, body gestures, and postures and sounds to express more meaning into their messages. And so initially, kiddos with ASD don't even understand that there's meaning from the nonverbal cues, so they're not going to look for them at all. And so they also probably don't have clear signals to communicate their wants, they often get really upset because the parents have to do, generally we're trying to figure out what's upsetting them, what's bothering them. So through teaching them nonverbal cues and nonverbal skills, we're going to hopefully decrease their frustration. So we want to start teaching them that it nonverbal communication builds a way for them to communicate back and forth in two-way conversation and two-way communication. So you want to do less so your child does more. So you want to wait for them a little bit to respond to you, and to ask for things from you, so that they have to use their words, they have to use their facial expressions, or they have to use their gestures. And so with this, the more practice opportunities you can offer through your joint attention routines or joint activity routines, the better that they'll get at it. So making sure that you always follow through when you make a request, and that you position yourself in a way that they see you, will help them develop the nonverbal communication skills. So when we're thinking about doing less, you know your child better than anyone, and you generally know what they want before they want it, or you can anticipate what they're going to want. So it's a great skill to have, except when you're trying to build your child's independence and communication. So you have to pretend you don't know them as well, so that they I call it being like a silly mommy or silly daddy. Oh, I don't know what you want. What do you want? Milk or juice, or and kind of making them work a little bit harder to get what they want. So you can give them choices. Do you want milk or do you want juice? Or you can offer what you know that they don't want, and then they have to do something different. They don't just take the item away from you and just go off on their own. That once they realize they have something that they don't want, they're going to respond, and that gives you an opportunity to shape it. The other thing that you can do is wait before you give them what they want. So they have to do something in order to get it. So if they want their juice, you're holding it up and waiting for them to either look at you, to reach for it, to say juice. And then once they do, you can hand it, yes, juice, and be sure to use the word when you hand it over to them. So if they're not using a lot of words, you can confirm that that's the label for it. So if you know they want juice and they go to grab it from you, you hold on to it a little tighter, put it up to your eye, and then when they look up at you, say, did you want juice? Tell me juice. And if they don't say juice, you just hand it to them and say juice. I usually do the, 3 strikes and you're out, because you don't want them to get too frustrated. So you ask them, you say, do you want juice? Say juice. And they don't say anything. You say juice, ja, 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 and they still don't say anything. Tell me, ja. And if they still don't say anything, but you have their eye contact, then you hand it to them while you have their eye contact and say, juice, you wanted some juice. So that gives them a lot of good models of what the word is, and also maintains eye contact with you in that interaction. And so make sure that if they signal in any way, they reach, they eye contact, they then give it to them right away, so that they experience positive reinforcement of getting what they want. And then, definitely try to offer it before they cry. The timing. Right before that moment of breakdown, you hand it back to them and say it. Um, and then just get face to face when you're doing it, so that they get the idea of, I have to look in order to request. Creating lots of practice. So there's different ways of creating practice to get your child using nonverbals. You can just wait, like you can gesture to offer your arms and wait for them to imitate you, or to reach up to ask you to pick them up. Before you give them their water or their juice, get eye to eye, but don't hand it over until you get some sort of signal from them, eye contact or sound. Um, and then, as much as you can, create situation where your child needs your help. So putting things up higher where they can see them but they can't reach them is really the best way, because then they go over towards that item and they may make a sound, or they may point to it. They may even try to climb up to it, and you can stop them and be like, what are you trying to get? Oh, do you want some juice? Tell me, juice. And then you can help them point to the juice, or reach for the juice, or say the word juice. So the more that they do this, the repetition creates new patterns for requesting that breaks the old pattern. So luckily our kiddos, once they learn something new, they forget the old. So we just want to lay down some new tracks. So you can practice all day long developing these turn taking and nonverbal skills. So here's some tips, here's some tricks. So if they want something but they're not doing anything about it except looking at the item, then you move the item a little closer to them, so that they can either touch it or reach for it or look at it. You you could ask them, so if they want to be picked up, instead of just picking them up, they have to gesture or say up, is that happens a lot, that they went up. So just, they have to reach for it. Oh, reach, show me you went up, show me. And then put your arms up and show them how to do it. And then eventually they'll do it. And then eventually you can also make them say up. They need to know basically that they have to do something to get something. If they're starting to get really upset, you can pick them up and hold the object in one hand and hold them in the other, and say, is this what you want? You want juice? And touch the juice. And then they touch it, and then you hand it over to them. You can hand them the closed container so if they want crackers and it's in a plastic container, and they won't ask and they won't look at you, then just hand them the closed container, the one that they can't open. And then if they get frustrated, say, oh, did you want help? And the help sign is basically a thumbs up sign. So you can teach them how to do like a help, or teach them to do open, which is like your hands are together in a prayer position and then you open them up. And that's the sign for open. And then the other is giving a choice of 2 items, and then encourage them to say no to the one that they don't want. So you can hand them, they want juice, so you push the milk forward, and they don't want the milk, so you teach them push the milk away, and then over exaggerate. No, 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 I don't want milk. I want juice. Um, and so for actions, if they want you to like tickle them or something, or swing or push them on the swing, you do it twice in a really fun way, and then you stop until they ask and request, because you have to get them hooked into the activity. So for anything like that they want you to complete or do it 2 times, and then wait for them to request for you to do it again. And these are things you can practice all day long. That's why, like, these joint activity routines, anytime that you're doing things that you see that they want, or an item that you know that they want, it's a perfect time to practice. And it carries over into other areas. Uh, and then choose what gestures you want to teach your child. So the ones that are pretty common for the preschool set are, hi and bye and high fives and reaching for things and asking for help and even pointing. Pointing is a little harder, but it is one of the ESDM goals. So that's something you should work towards, with first reaching and then shaping that reach into a point. So think about what messages are important for your child to deliver. So usually it's that they want something. And so it can be pointing or reaching. It's also requests for social interaction. So saying hi or bye or high fives, to control other people's behavior. So that's where help, asking for help or reaching for something. And also, they like to share attention with others about objects or events. So that's where pointing or reaching can also come in. Like you could teach them the words that go with this as well, like look or help. And so I would always use the words paired with the gestures, so that even if they're not imitating the words, they know what the words are supposed to be. Another thing you want to teach them as a nonverbal skill is no. And so no will take a lot of frustration away if if you listen to them. So it's a good thing to teach during mealtime by giving them options of foods one at a time, and then especially the ones that they don't like. And if you know that they don't like, then teach them to push it away, or shake their head no. So like, no, 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 I don't want that. Oh, you don't want broccoli, you want potatoes. So just breaking it down for them, and so teaching them how to refuse, as opposed to just falling into a tantrum. So it gives them more control over their life. And once they have it, do the same thing in play. So at playtime, you can hand them when they ask for, can I have a car? I want car. Or that they want the car or the block, you give them the wrong thing, and then teach them to say no or push it away. It does help with frustration a lot. And then always use the same no script. So always like, no, 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 and shake your head no. Don't change it up, because that's confusing. They think it means something else. Um, so just remember, at first, your child's not going to understand what you want, because they have never had to request things before, or maybe they don't know how to use the nonverbals at all. Like, they may come at it with totally not knowing at all. So make it easier at first by, looking for moments when they are trying to communicate to you, and then shaping them. So if they're reaching, oh, did you want that? Tell me, I want juice, juice. So shaping their current gestures into something that's a little more readable by others. Lead up to what they want. So if you know where they're heading out to the kitchen to get their snack. Oh, do you want to get some snack? What do you think you're going to have today? And then giving them a choice of two. And then when you have success, repeat. So the more when they're starting to be successful at asking for juice, you always make them ask for juice. Or if they are getting better at asking for crackers, you always have them ask for the crackers. You don't go backward and don't ask, and don't make the demand, because then they're going to get confused, as far as thinking maybe they don't have to ask anymore. So If you see some success, keep pushing. Persist, persist. Positioning, again, it has to be down low, your face across from your child's face when you're teaching nonverbal, so that they can pick up on your facial expressions, your look of expectation for them to respond, that type of thing. So you're getting eye to eye. You're making sure that they're comfortable, because if they're not comfortable where they are, they're not going to be able to focus. And whatever object that they want, you put it between the two of you, not like up off to the side, because you want to encourage the eye contact. And as much as possible, remove distractions. So if they are, if there's a lot of things going on in the kitchen at that time, or there's a TV on, that type of thing, turn things off, move to a different place that's more quiet so that they can focus. And so helping them to understand nonverbal communication of others is also something that we want to focus on. So not only are they using it, they're learning from others. So the way to do that is you have to kind of be their coach. You have to exaggerate your gestures. You have to add things that are predictable into the routine so that they know what to expect. And then you have to help them whenever they need help. So you're the model for their nonverbal communication. And so if you do something like, that's so silly, then you're doing it over, you're over exaggerating it. And then encouraging them to do the same thing. And definitely if they need help with, the gestures or hand over hand, then you're jumping in right away to avoid frustration. So to wrap this up, there chapters 6 and 7 are the two that you should focus on. Chapter 7 is specifically on nonverbal communication, and chapter 6 is all about turn taking and why that's important. There's refrigerator lists in both chapters that'll give you the critical information that you can review, so you don't have to review the whole chapter after listening to this. Again, the plan ahead, I can't encourage it enough that if you're going to be working on joint activity routines with your kiddo throughout the day, kind of start wrapping your head around, well, if we're going to do a cleanup together after dinner, I want to set it up in a way where it's going to be easy for them to X, Y, and Z. Or if we're going to be he's going to be helping me get dressed in the morning, or if he's going to start taking more responsibility and getting dressed in the morning, I want to set up the clothes in a way where there's not so many for him to choose from and it's easy for him to find. So things like that. Make sure to use your top tips whenever you're working with your kiddo. And be sure, if your child meets a goal, just shoot me an email for the next at happy@schoolimagination.org. And then don't forget to connect and have fun, because your child learns more when they're having fun.